So we are on page number 16. So here, well, we have been listening to the story of Jerry and the dog. The long story that Jerry has been narrating to Peter. Well, the story of his relationship with the dog. Well, we know that his landlady, that dirty, stinking landlady, as he says, well, she has a dog. That dog, it was malevolent. It was malevolent. That dog didn't like Jerry. He tried to make love to the dog. He tried to love the dog. The dog didn't love him. He tried to kill the dog. The dog didn't get killed. So he tried to be generous. He tried to be kind. He tried to be cruel. And both attempts, his act of kindness and his act of cruelty, they were both unsuccessful. And he says, it has taught him a lesson. It has taught him a lesson. What is that? He says, so he made an unsuccessful attempt to kill the dog. And the dog was not killed. And finally he says, well, we started loving each other. We started loving each other. Now when I come in, now after going out from outside, when I come inside, when I come back to my room, my lodging house, as he says, well, the dog remains where he is. He just looks at me. I just look at him. He says, and I look at his face. I looked more into his face than he looked into mine. So we look at each other's face. I look into his face. He looks into my face. But I look into his face more than he looks into my face. Now, I can concentrate longer. I can concentrate longer at looking into a dog's face than a dog can concentrate at looking into mine or into anybody's face for that matter. But during the 20 seconds or 2 hours that we looked into each other's face, well, we made contact. Now, here is what I had wanted to happen. Jerry says, this is what I wanted to happen. I loved the dog now. I loved the dog now. And I wanted him to love me. I had tried to love, and I had tried to kill. I had tried to kill the dog. I had tried to love the dog. And both had been unsuccessful by themselves. I didn't succeed. I didn't succeed in making love to the dog. I didn't succeed in killing the dog. I hoped, and I don't really know why I expected the dog to understand anything, much less my motivations. I hoped that the dog would understand. Now at this point, Peter is almost hypnotized. He's shocked. He's completely paralyzed. It is just that. Page number 16. Jerry is abnormally tense now. It is just that if you can't deal with people, you have to make a start somewhere. Now, if you fail, if you have failed in establishing intimate relationship, good relationship with people, if you feel that you have failed to make friends with people, well, he says, we must start somewhere. We might make a start. Now, how can we start? Now, you have no friends. Now, you are a young man of 30. You are in your 30s. You have no friends in this world because you have failed in establishing relationships with people. Now, what will you do? He says, we should make a start somewhere. What kind of a start? Now, don't you see? With the animals, first we should try to make friends with animals. Now, it's a trial and error. You try with animals. Don't you see? A person has have some way of dealing with something. If not with people, something. For example, with a bed. Make friendship with a bed. With a cockroach. With a mirror. Oh no, that's too hard. But that is one of the last steps. With a cockroach. With a carpet. A roll of toilet paper. You can try establishing a relationship with these kind of things. You can try to make friends with, a bed, a cockroach, a mirror, well, a carpet, a roll of toilet paper. No, not that. But that's a mirror too. Always check bleeding. You see how hard? You see how hard it is to find things? With a street corner. Too many lights. All colors reflecting on the oily, wet streets. With a wisp of smoke. With a streak of smoke, you can have a relationship. You can establish a relationship with a wisp of smoke. With the pornographic playing cards, you can have intimacy, relations with the pornographic playing cards, with a strong box, as the type of box that he has in his room, in his boarding house. He says, without a lock, because he has nothing to keep inside the box. With the love, with the vomiting, with crying, you can try. You can try to have friendship with all these sorts of things. With vomiting, with crying, with fury, because the pretty little ladies that he knows, they are in pretty little ladies. Because with making money with your body, well, which is an act of love. I could prove it because I have seen with my own eyes. I have experienced with howling because you are alive. With God, you can establish relationship with God. But now he says, this modern, young gentleman, he doesn't believe in God. He has no belief in God. To him, anything is God. Anything is God. Anything. For example, he says, how about that? With God, who is a colored queen. The colored queen that he has described a little earlier. The colored queen who is staying in the next room, in the adjacent room, who wears a kimono, the Japanese dress, and plucks his eyebrows. Whenever he comes out and he starts plucking his eyebrows, he keeps the door open. He says, well, who is a woman who cries? The woman in the other room, with determination, behind her closed door, with God, I am told, turned his back on the whole thing some time ago. God has turned his back. He has lost his interest. He has lost his interest in redeeming the humanity. With the someday, some people you have to establish a relationship. And his eyes, people with an idea, a concept. And where ever better in this humility excuse for a jail? Well, where better to communicate one single simple-minded idea than in an entrance hall, where it would be a start. You should make a start somewhere. Where better to make a beginning, to make a start, to make a beginning, to understand and just possibly be understood. A beginning of an understanding than with a dog. To begin with an understanding. Better to make a beginning, to understand and just possibly be understood than with a dog. Just that. A dog. Now a dog, it seemed like a perfectly sensible idea to start establishing a relationship with a dog. I thought that's a good idea. Well, it seemed a perfectly sensible idea. Man is a dog's best friend, remember. Man is a dog's best friend. The best friend of a dog is man. And so the dog, I looked. The dog and I looked at each other. We looked at each other. The landlady's dog and I looked at him. He looked at me. I longer than the dog. I looked at his face longer than he looked at my face. And what I saw then has been the same ever since. Whenever the dog and I see each other, whenever we see each other, we both stop where we are. He stops where he is. I stop where I am. So we stop at wherever we are. We regard each other with a mixture of sadness and suspicion. Because suspicion, why? Because he suspects whether I would attack him, and I suspect whether he would attack me. And then we feign indifferent. Well, we just we are just indifferent at each other. We walk past each other safely. We have an understanding. What's it? It's very sad. It's very sad that you will have to admit that it's an understanding. There's an understanding between him and me, between the dog and me. We had made many attempts at contact. We had made many attempts at contact. I tried to contact him. He tried to contact me. He tried to bite me. I tried to beat him. I tried to love him. He never tried to love me. And we had failed. The dog has returned to the garbage. That's his place. The garbage, that is his place. And I returned to the solitary but a free passage. Well, now these days, after that incident, after that unsuccessful, my unsuccessful attempt at killing the dog, well, after that incident, we don't bother. We are just indifferent to each other. I have no return, I mean to say. I have gained the solitary passage, again the solitary passage. If that much further loss can be said to be gained. Now from this I have learned, from this experience, from this incident I have learned that neither kindness nor cruelty by themselves, independent of each other, creates any effect. Neither kindness nor cruelty. An act of kindness, you make love to the dog. An act of cruelty, you try to kill him. Neither kindness nor cruelty creates any effect beyond themselves. No use. Acts of kindness and acts of cruelty are useless. And I have learned what? That the two combined, the act of cruelty and the act of kindness combined together at the same time are the teaching emotion. Well, when they are together, when these two are combined, when these two forces are combined, well, they are the teaching emotion. And what is gained is loss. And what has been the result? Well, the dog and I, we have a compromise now. We have reached a compromise. More of a bargain, really. We neither love nor hurt. Because we are indifferent. Because we do not try to reach each other. He doesn't try to reach me. I don't try to reach him. And was trying to feed the dog an act of love. And perhaps was the dog's attempt to bite me not an act of love? If we can so misunderstand, well then, why have we invented the word love in the first place? Then, if it was his attempt to bite me, he tried to bite me because he bit off a piece of my trousers. He tried to bite me. Was that an act of love? Well, if we can so misunderstand, well then, why have we invented the word love in the first place? So he goes on talking a long story. The story of Jerry and the dog. The long story. Now at this point, the story of Jerry and the dog. This is the end. Peter is silent. Peter is shocked. He is silent. Well, Peter. Jerry is suddenly cheerful. Well, Peter, do you think I could sell that story to the Reader's Digest? The story that I have been narrating so far. Can I sell it? Can I get it published in the Reader's Digest, the magazine, and make a couple of $100? Can I make some money? A couple of $100 for the story, to publish the story with a title, "The Most Unforgettable Character I Have Ever Met." Can I get it published in the Reader's Digest with this title, and can I get some money out of it? Jerry is animated, but Peter is disturbed. Oh, come on now, Peter. Tell me what you think. Come on, say something, please, Peter. Peter is shocked, numb,